Thank you very much. I want to just say a few words about this amendment, which I hope we can pass. I think it is an amendment that will find strong bipartisan support. I am from New England, and across New England, but I suspect in Wisconsin and across the country as well, communities are trying to restore old rivers back to their healthy state. And what we see in New England, particularly in Rhode Island, with our history of the Industrial Revolution, is that our early industrial history was powered by hydropower. It was powered by damming rivers and then diverting some of the flow through a wheel that then drove the engines of industry, the mills, for instance, that were so important to Rhode Island's industrial history. And that's not just true in Rhode Island, it's true across New England. I suspect it's true in a lot of places across the country. So as local communities are restoring these old rivers, they tend to be small rivers, particularly in New England, and these tend to be small dams. And what we want to do is remove the old dam so that the original flow of the river is restored. Or we want to rebuild and maybe even redesign culverts so that the flow of the river through the culvert permits the passage of fish. And in some cases, we want to actually keep the dam but build a fish passage so that the demersal fish that are working their way upstream to their traditional breeding grounds find a passage and aren't blocked by the dam. And that is part, again, of bringing these old rivers back to life. So when you do that, it's usually, in my state, towns, small towns often, and local community organizations that have to apply in order to make those changes. Part of the application process is a flood map revision to show what change removing the dam or changing the culvert or adding the fish ladder will make on downstream conditions, and so the flood map gets redone. The flood map gets filed with FEMA, and FEMA requires a processing fee of more than $5,000 in order to review and accept the flood map revision. Now, what actually happens in practice is that the town or the local organization that is filing the flood map revision because they're repairing or replacing the dam or providing fish passage for it, they will apply to waive that fee. And virtually always, at least in Rhode Island, and I think around the country, virtually always, FEMA is willing to waive that fee. But the problem is these are small organizations and these are small towns, and it takes actually a considerable effort to put together the fee waiver application. So you may save $5,500 in the form of the FEMA fee, but you'll spend maybe close to that much on your lawyers and engineers and on time and trouble and working together to get that application done. So since these fees usually get waived anyway, this amendment would just cut to the chase and say, there's no fee. And because there's no fee, now you don't have to apply for a fee waiver. And that will help the small towns and the small organizations that are often behind these small projects. And I mean dams that are only just 4 or 5 feet tall sometimes. The redesign of a culvert is not a major effort. Very important to local communities, very important to local fishermen, very important to local canoers and outdoorsmen, but not a terrifically big deal. So I hope that we can agree to eliminate that bureaucratic requirement. Neither NOAA nor FEMA have expressed any objection whatsoever to this. And if I can close, I'll read a statement by Chris Fox, who is the executive director of the Wood Pawcatuck Watershed Association. The Wood River and the Pawcatuck River run through western Rhode Island, and they are wonderful rivers. I have actually canoed and kayaked them both and enjoyed it immensely. He had to go through this fee waiver process for a set of projects on the Upper Pawcatuck River, and he writes about this, I quote, "This amendment will avert lengthy project delays and reduce the cost of these environmentally beneficial projects nationwide. On behalf of the wildlife, water, and people who reside in and depend upon the health of the Wood Pawcatuck watershed, I thank you and all those who support this amendment." So I hope that all my colleagues will join together to earn Chris Fox's thanks for this, I hope, non-controversial and beneficial amendment. I thank the presiding officer. I yield the floor, and I note the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.